You're listening to Season 5 of Three Angry Giant Fans and a Jet Fan podcast with your hosts Scott, Giant Mike, Cardone, and Angry Jets fan Novak. Get us free on Buzzsprout, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to check out our new website, angryfootballfans.com. We also have a new sponsor for Season 5, the Carolina Beer Temple in Matthews, North Carolina. Let's go Giants, go Jets, and get ready to have some fun.
The Giants just played a football game where their defense did not allow a touchdown, their offense scored 3, and they still found a way to lose 21-18. Bad teams find ways to lose. That's a tired NFL cliche. But the Giants are teetering on being an NFL league-wide embarrassment. They are that bad. And I know the offense looked a little better than what they did. Daniel Jones, he was efficient. Devin Singletary ran the ball well. Malik Neighbors looked like the star rookie that we saw throughout training camp. But they did it against arguably the worst defense in the NFL. Their defense allowed scoring drives on every single possession. The only one that didn't, which I'm discounting, was a kneel down to end the first half. They allowed over 200 yards on the ground and Brian Robinson to run like he was Barry Sanders. We're not even going to adjust or address the organizational malpractice that they committed by trotting Gano out there with absolutely no contingency plan in place. This was the game on the Giants' schedule that I and many other people had circled as the one that they were supposed to win, that they should have won. If they can't even beat Washington without allowing a touchdown and scoring 3 themselves, what game are they going to win? It is a long road to get to the Panthers in Germany, and I don't necessarily see any other team they're beating on the way there.
So that is Connor Hughes giving a very blunt assessment and saying that the Giants are teetering on the heels of being an NFL embarrassment. After this week, I'm going to one-up you, Connor, and say that the Giants have already been an NFL embarrassment. Cardone talked about the record that it's been in the last decade. This franchise cannot get out of its own way. We had another historic loss. We'll break all of that down. We will talk about a good Jets win at least, but we are the Three Angry Giant Fans and a Jet fan. This is your host, Scott, Giant Mike, Cardone, and Angry Jets fan Novak. And guys, just another look. By the end of that game, we'll get into the reasons why, but I was drunk. I was disappointed. I was furious. There was just a lot of emotions that were happening, and walk away from a game that we should have won, shaking my head, wondering what the fuck is going on. And again, the season is done, I feel.
How many times do we have to say that? I mean, we right? Just the inexplicable head scratching after another devastating loss that you really can't explain. Guys, I've been trying to digest it for a couple days now. I don't feel nearly as pissed off as I did Sunday and even into Monday. At least the Falcons made me feel a little better on Sunday. But yeah, Scott, you just said I was going to say, I'm glad you brought it up. They are no longer teetering on anything. They are an abomination of just. I like how you said, cannot get out of their own way. They're impossible. I love the term. Like, they are just impossible right now, finding ways to lose. And we'll break it all down here tonight, guys.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think Connor is a little late to the party, man. If he's just noticing this, like we've been talking about it for 2.5 years, pretty much, other than a one season blip there a couple of years ago. But yeah, welcome, Connor, to the club.
I hate the fact that, our shtick is being the Angry Giant fans, and we don't even have to be a shtick. This is just coming naturally because we're so pissed off. I want to be the Barry Manilow mellow Giant fans if we can, just sometime, just see a win,
Impossible.
Just a win. Christopher Cross.
I'll take anything. Air Supply. Give me Air Supply for one weekend with the Grey Goose going. I mean, if I haven't, the dust on my bottle of Grey Goose is now is as thick as a fucking Guardian on the top of your helmet.
So before we get into it all, let's give a shout out. So I like this one this week. So hello, Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. It's in York County. It's population 2,643, so a small town. And it was named for Irish settler Matthew Dill. It's also known for 2 times being invaded by the Confederates in the Civil War, and it's known for dropping a large pickle on New Year's Eve.
There
I
you
was
go.
going to ask, is it a pickle town like Mount Olive? I mean, the assumption would be, right?
Yeah. Do the Heinz people there in Pittsburgh get their pickles from Dillsburg? It's kind of a long drive. Looking at my map here.
Yeah, York County's more towards like Hershey, I think.
Yeah,
down
your
there.
county's
yeah.
in the dead center of the state.
Yeah.
That's the type of town or the name of a town that might produce a guy, like a Kevin Pittsnogle. Like one of the best college basketball names of all time, right? On the West Virginia basketball team years ago.
Well, I was gonna say West Virginia or Pitt. I could never remember.
Yeah, West Virginia, but like just the greatest. Pittsnogle for 3, bang! That's Pittsnogle would be from like Dillsburg, right?
I would like to think the Jet great Bubby Brister is from Dillsburg.
Yeah,
same kind of thing.
Bubby.
So looking at the games last week, Giants and Commanders. Honestly, we've made history so many times in the last few years with losses or with odd stats. Teams that have scored 3 or more touchdowns than our opponent up until this time were 1,132 games in the win column to 0 in the loss column.
What we can end the show right there tonight.
Have a good night,
all right. Anybody got anything else? Have a good night.
Like, how historic is it? That means it's anytime you've seen a game that's had a team score 3 more touchdowns than the opponent, it's an automatic win. It's not even like it's, time of possession sometimes tells a story. No, this always tells a story. 3 touchdowns more than your opponent is a win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and also, as we all know here, field goals don't win games, right, Cardone? You can't win a game kicking field goals.
No, you cannot.
So
No, you can't, Mike.
I don't even know. I can't even believe Washington tried 7 field goals. I wonder when the last time a team attempted 7 field goals in a game was. And we can get into that about the defense. I mean, I heard some good things about the defense in different places over the week so far here, and I disagree. I pretty strenuously disagree.
Strenuously. Yeah, you won't hear them from me. I'm ready to bury the defense, guys, because all too often, and rightfully so too. I mean, it's a colossal bad team when you look at all 3 phases. We're constantly staring at how bad the offense is. I'm sick to death of this defense, and even calling them average, let alone above average on paper or whatever. I was barking on Sunday in between camera shots of Salah going on in the other game next. I'm like, you guys remember, I'm yelling Burns' name. I'm like, has anyone heard the name Burns other than from me right now? Have you heard this guy's name make a play? Thibodeau, Burns, all these. It's guys. But Scott, that statistic right there, that just shows. We've talked about it for a couple of years now on this pod. The Giants are historically putting together losses that don't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I just love the fact, and this is just a stupid observation, but I love the fact that even the final score, 21-18, if you imagine asking anybody, like, well, which of those teams do you think scored 3 touchdowns and which scored, 7 field or just field goals? Which one scored a touch? Just the stupidity of the final fucking score annoys me and angers me.
Well, on the flip side of what Mike heard, I heard people talk about the defense saying, well, when you only give up 21 points, you should win. And then they're bitching about the offense only scoring 18. But when you break it down, the reason the Redskins scored 7 field goals is because they had the ball like 65 minutes out of the game. And the Giants had 7 possessions? That's almost unheard of too. 7 possessions in a game. The Giants scored 3 touchdowns on those 7 possessions. So it was not the offense that was at fault. It was the defense that did not stop Washington. They didn't punt.
No.
I mean, obviously I was paying attention to the Jets game, obviously, but it felt like every time I took a second to watch the Giant game, the defense had Jaden Daniels wrapped up, and he seemingly got out of how many times did he break tackles to get even, and I'm saying he got 15 yards, but he broke tackles where he was dead to rights and would get 4, 3, 5 yards and maintain drives.
Yeah.
I mean,
even if it wasn't Jaden Daniels doing that, every time the the Commanders were in a 3rd and long, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, they would do like a little screen pass off to the side. The running back would look like he's about ready to be tackled, and he'd still get 7-8 yards, so they could go for it on 4th down or kick a field goal or make it more manageable than it was. I look at that as our tackling outside of Drew Phillips was really bad. Dexter Lawrence played a decent game. Drew Phillips as a rookie really impressed me. But I'll tell you, a couple guys like Okirky, for holding out the middle there, he missed a couple key tackles. Michael McFadden had a couple great plays. He also missed a couple key tackles too. So it was an up and down game. The defense, to me, that bend and break was broken. I think even though you're not giving up touchdowns, just the time of possession change and the fact that you're giving up a score on every possession is unacceptable. Now, we did have a couple stops in there that were aided by defensive holding penalties, and we can get into that because I'll tell you what, just league wide, you can't play defense in this league. They refuse to let you get off the field. We'll talk about a play in the Jets game as well, but it's just they refuse to allow a 3rd down stop happen unless it is some fuck up by the offense.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Cardone. You were
no, Mike, you started. Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing with the defense is, and I think it's a broken philosophy, and not just for the Giants, for any teams now. Starting field position now in this league is too good to play bend but don't break. Mm-hmm. If you give up 2 first downs in the NFL, you are at risk of a field goal now. That you cannot play that style of defense nowadays. For one thing, I mean, it's really hard to play zone with the rules, or I'm sorry, man with the rules the way they are. So, defenses can't be about contain. You've got to attack up front. This style, I think we'll see it around the league over the next few years, and I think we've already seen it the last years. This bend don't break style is dead. It is dead. You can't play it situationally, sure. But it can't be your philosophy to sit back and wait for even rookies or whatever to make mistakes. You've got to force mistakes because you have to have them to get off the field, to Scott's point.
We saw it, and whatever we talk about the officiating all the time. And Scott, I know we're going to get into some particular officiating calls, and we hate to beat that dead horse, but you can't help it when, like you said, where defenders make good defensive plays and they can't not get rewarded for them. We saw it on the first drive of the game when we got Washington in a 3rd down, incomplete pass. Nope, there's the illegal. There's the defensive holding, keeps the drive alive. And to your point, Mike, they're because of the field position now and all these rules, to advance the offense and to give them that great start, starting field position. Another thing that drives me crazy is I'm going to start tracking the number of 3 and outs in this league, because this league, they just won't allow 3 and outs, especially to start a game. It seems like it's amazing, guys. They will not allow teams to get off the fucking field. They won't do it. It's agonizing as just pure longtime football fans like us in this league that love defense, just want to see the defense get rewarded, and they just won't allow it, guys. They won't let them. But but the one thing about the Giant defense that we have said for years is when they're another one of these games where it seems like they had Washington in 3rd and long. It just seemed like every drive they had them in 3rd and long. The 1st and 2nd down, and that 3rd down, whether it's if it's 3rd and 14 and they pick up 12 or 13 yards, we've said it on this pod a number of times. Those are the ones that drive me insane, because then it's like they go 4th and short, they get it, drives continue, whether it's via penalty, whether it's the yards on 3rd down. We got to Daniels. We sacked him officially 5 times, and I felt like we could have had at least 8, and we just kept missing opportunities to get guys to the ground. The tackling, well, that's an epidemic around, league-wide epidemic, but the Giants certainly contributed to that loss. Not being able to make tackles drives me crazy.
The one stat that really bothered me was that Daniels had he had 13 throws that were at the line of scrimmage or behind it, and half of those plays were plays that looked like they were contained, looked like we had them snuffed out. And no, the guy would sneak through, get 7-8 yards, or break forward for more. So it's that edge tackling that really outside of Drew Phillips, we looked really bad at. Now, the other trend when we're talking about the penalties that is bothering me league wide is I'm seeing a lot of times where the offensive player is causing a penalty and yet the defense is getting called for it. We saw that on the Drew Phillips hold against Zach Ertz, where Zach Ertz basically steamrolls him off the line, and Drew Phillips gets called for the penalty. We saw it in week 1 when Addison went up and mugged Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson's called for an inexplicable defensive pass interference. I'm using Giant examples, but I could think of at least 4 around the league that I saw later that week that happened. And this, guys, why can't flags be thrown on the offense too? If someone lowers their head, why is it always called on the defense?
They just love favoring the offense. Yeah, it's all about, It's to keep drives alive. It's to make sure that they're they're ensuring point scoring drives. That's the only reason I can think. I don't know what else. What else could it be other than just they want to see points?
Go ahead, Mike.
I just don't think there's any question about that. There is clearly an edict to officials out there that, unlike I've talked about in the past, playoff hockey, right, where the officials kind of swallow the whistles, especially third period overtime. It's the opposite in the NFL. It's absolutely the opposite in the NFL. It's not just one crew, it's every crew. So we know it's not just the officials. That's coming from somewhere to them. They didn't all get together and decide to do this. They have clearly been told on third downs in games, if you see anything by the defense, anything you can flag it.
I mean,
and it should be the opposite. On a third down, it should be a blatant foul that causes the flag to come out.
100%. I had it listed as one of my things I was going to mention is that for 31 teams, overcoming officiating is now part of the game. There's you can't, I don't think that you can make an excuse that we lost the game because of officiating unless it was on the actual last play. Every team but the Chiefs, you've got to, that is part of the game now. That's just the way it is. So the teams that can overcome that, and Cardone's favorite word, rise up and and go beyond the bad officiating, are the ones that are going to be successful. Everyone sees it. I mean, I was watching the Jet game. I was calling holding on every single play. So everyone's feeling it. The officiating's terrible. It's who can rise up with this officiating.
I don't want to forget to mention, Novak, the same thing. During breaks of the Giant game, I was glancing at the Jet game. Of course, we had the TVs going side by side there at our favorite sports bar, and the one that sticks out in my mind, I don't want to, was that Will Levis drew that roughing the passer. Help me on what part of the game that was. I can't remember exactly what quarter that was, but I mean, we were just barking like our heads off on that one. It's not even worth giving the detail. It's again, the guy comes in with his head up, hits him.
Hits him with his head up.
Yep, hits him
Levis
shoulder
had
pad
the
to shoulder
ball
pad
in his hand. Still,
when shoulder pad
the
to
initial
shoulder
contact was made, shoulder pad to shoulder pad, and and third point, it's Will fucking Levis.
Will Levis.
Yeah.
The old adage is you make that call against Brady or Mahomes or some of these other guys. Will Levis, come on.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
And this was going to be something I talked about a little bit later, but since we're talking about, I'll bring it up now. There were 3 parts to that really bothered me. So the guy came in shoulder to shoulder, never went to the ground with Levis. So there's no, throwing your weight on him or whatever. And Levis actually never really was slow to get up or anything like that. So the whole reason that flag was thrown is because the hit looked violent.
Correct.
And when you're throwing things because things look violent, that's really what bothers me. And you see it all the time on those wide receiver crosses over the middle where the wide receiver gets laid out. You don't know how hard that wide receiver's been laid out, where he's been hit. But you know what? It looks like it hurt really bad, so we're going to throw the 15 yards. Fuck it.
Yeah, and if you watch, normally when those flags get thrown, you can see the other team, the team that's getting hit, is like raising their arms as if that should be no one did that. No fan, no coach, no player, only the ref who called that play or the flag.
Yeah.
On the bright side for the Giants game, guys, Malik Neighbors is really damn good. He was the youngest player now with 10 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown in a game. Speaking of hits, he had to be checked for a concussion on a play after he was hit in the head, but there was no flag on that play, which is funny. So the officials realized that he was hit very hard in the head area. Had to be removed from the game for a couple of plays, but did not draw a flag for that. So, that's not targeting apparently or anything like that. So,
I went back and watched that, believe it or not, as brutal as that game was. And I'll tell you guys about that play. And I was confused about it at Mulligan's. I'm still confused about it now. Malik Neighbors showed no signs of a concussion. I mean, it was a hard hit. He went down. He stayed on the ground for a second. He popped up, was in the huddle when the refs came and essentially pulled him out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, in our point there at Mulligan's, and Scott just made it again here, was that, okay, well, if you think it was that violent of a hit to the head that no matter how he says he feels, he's got to come out, where the hell's the flag? Then, if you had that good of a look at that hit and said, there's no way he's not woozy from that, then throw the flag. We just talked about the play on the quarterback for the Levis was through because it looked violent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, this looked violent enough where the official said, I don't care, get that guy out of the game. He must be hurt. And but it was clean. I don't know where we're going with all this.
I don't know.
But 18 targets for Neighbors. I mean, impressive. I rewatched some of his routes. His route running is incredible. He's causing defenders to run into each other as he's doing fakes. He's catching the ball and turning on a dime, going the opposite way. I was really impressed with Neighbors.
He looked great.
Yeah, I knew we would bring up how good Neighbors looked, and he did. Like I think I said it at some point, during the game, late in the game. I'm like, wow, Neighbors, guy's a star. He looks like a star. Yep. So that's something to feel good about. Scott, you just mentioned the 18 targets, and then a couple other things I'm looking at. Just looking at the box score, and we saw it with just the eye test, which I hate that term, but Singletary ran pretty good. I mean, the guy he had 95 yards on 16 carries. About 6 yards a pop. That's pretty damn good for this offensive line and this offense. Of course, the punch-out fumble late in the game, that was devastating. But that's one of those things that that credit to the defense, for knocking the ball out there. But here's another alarming and statistic that stands out, guys, because I thought as you're watching the game, you're thinking about this. A couple things. Where the fuck is our tight end? Do we have a tight end on this team?
Tight end was one of my points. So, no tight end.
So where do we have a tight? That's one thing. And then Scott, the 18 targets, that's fine. But you take now, all you got to do is, we're going to the Cleveland next week, and every other week after that, it's like, well, let's see, let's just take Neighbors out of the game, and who are we throwing to? Like, who's the number 2 on this team? I was barking like, okay, Robinson caught a red zone touchdown there, fine. But like Darius Slayton still running around. You look at the rest of the targets, after Neighbors' 18 targets, it dropped down to 4 with Slayton and Robinson.
Hyatt was invisible.
Hyatt, nothing for Hyatt.
Yeah.
And then Singletary, 1 target, 1 reception for no yards. So that's a major problem, guys, obviously. And on the flip side, one more point, Mike. You look at Jaden Daniels, making his second career start. I look over at the Washington box score, and he completed passes to 8 different guys. Spread the targets out all over the place. So that's a problem. That's a glaring problem. And also, we let Brian Robinson run for 133 yards. Our defense sucks, guys. I'm sorry. It's the offense played obviously better. I think everyone would agree that the offense was going to play better than they did against Minnesota. Jones was efficient. He had 16 for 28. All right, $178, so it didn't light up the yards, but he had a 100 rating. He looked a little bit like his old self on a couple read options there. Ran the ball 5 times, 32 yards. So I don't know, guys, but it's actually alarming though with the lack of spreading the ball around in this offense.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
They're all going to have to step up because we're not going to be able to target Malik Neighbors 18 times every game. it's not feasible. It's not going to happen. But what that does, of course, is open up other things. Most of the time you would think about a tight end. We don't even have one targeted. I don't know if we have one targeted this year. I think Theo dropped a pass last week, but yeah, we got to figure something else out. Cleveland right now, they're in a room right now watching tape and going, there's no way we let Jones throw the ball to this guy 18 times.
I actually think looking at the snap counts, Bellinger had less than 10 snaps.
Yeah, he wasn't listed on the starters, and he didn't have a stat, so I don't know where he is.
And I don't remember ever hearing Theo Johnson's name called, so it wasn't like they, tried a seam pass to him or anything like that, and it failed.
Well, this is, if you look around the league, I love the term copycat league, right? Tight ends are running wild all over the place, right? Guys that are just, coming out of the woodwork. Likely last week for Baltimore, no one knew, he wasn't on anybody's fantasy roster. The guy's catching touchdowns and shit. Our tight ends combined through 2 games have 2 catches for 5 yards. No, I'm sorry. Not, those were targets. I'm sorry. Let me back up. I want to get this right. 2 catches for 21 yards. That's what we have from our tight end position.
That might actually outpace what the Jets are doing at tight end, because they're also not targeting the tight end.
Also bad. Just so you guys know, because I did a little bit of homework on this because I was curious. You had the opportunity, and I know, look, hindsight's 20/20, but GMs are supposed to know this stuff. We're not supposed to. We're fucking fans. You had the opportunity to draft Laporta, and you didn't for, I forget who it was, but it's not even someone that's like a good, solid player on your team within 5 picks of that draft. So, I mean, he looks like he's going to be the next great one, and you had the opportunity to get it, and you didn't. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but it's roster management. Tight ends are not hard to find. I really don't think. Like, you can free agency, you can go get a pass catching tight end for, $5 million. It shouldn't be that difficult.
Yeah.
But
just draft any tight end from Iowa, even if he's the third. Just all you need to do.
Well, it's not just roster management, Novak, and that was that's a big point of why the Giants are in the position they are right now too. But it's game day management. So guys, we saw Graham Gano hurt on the opening kickoff. Now, this wouldn't be such a big deal, if Graham Gano hadn't already been dinged up and they knew about that, and they have something from last year against the Jets to look back at and say we had a kicker injured, so we're going to be extra safe here. So this ties back in a little bit to the Jets game, because Will Levis threw another one of those cornhole passes, as Cardone would say, and his coach went livid. And the coach is basically, look, make a mistake once, that's fine, learn from it. Well, the Giants didn't learn from the mistake last year of having a kicker on the roster who was iffy and then get hurt and have a backup plan. They could have elevated. There's a kicker on the practice squad. They could have elevated him. He's actually the foreign guy, so he's a roster exemption. They could have elevated him prior to the game as a backup in case Gano got hurt. Now, Gano, his groin was hurting him, and it was his hamstring that went out when he was chasing down, I think it was Eckler on the opening kickoff. But still, he's banged up. He's iffy. So what if he strained his groin instead? It doesn't matter. He's still iffy. Have a contingency plan. And the fact that they didn't, and this is the second game in a row where they didn't have a contingency plan for an injury, it's bad. It's bad game day management, and that falls directly on Brian Dable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's malpractice. It's football malpractice.
I mean, why is he kicking off? I mean, if you want to save him for field goals, fine. But obviously, you saw your punter was this ridiculous kickoff situation. Now, all you got to do is put it in that fucking landing zone. It's not, I mean,
as hard as you can.
How hard can that be? Like, I just don't understand. I don't understand it. Like, what are you not having on game day roster? A third string guard that you're gonna put on?
Well, Novak, it all just rolls up to bad teams make bad decisions and find ways to lose games. That's all you can. That's all I'm going to chalk it up to. It's just bad, like you said, Scott. Game day management, right? It's just not having a plan, not having everything covered. That's just a huge freaking mistake to make. And they didn't learn their lesson.
we shouldn't have two games we look at in 2 years' time saying that a loss is possible or probable because of roster management. That just shouldn't be a thing.
Not acceptable.
And at the, we were just talking about Malik Neighbors and the great game he had, and I failed to mention before, but of course he makes the critical drop.
And Singletary fumbled. The two guys who led us all day made critical errors. When
Singletary, the turnover,
the
and Neighbors inexplicably just drops that ball on the far sidelines. Otherwise, and who knows with the, if Gano was held, or if we had any field goal kicker, it's hard to go back and kind of do all the score scenarios and what they would have done, gone for it, not gone for it, kick field goals, all that, But just goes to show again, they're finding incredible ways to lose football games. It's wild.
Yeah, and I really don't know why we went away from Gillian on the extra points. He's made field goals for us in the past. I went back and looked. He made a 40-yard field goal against New Orleans last year.
Yeah.
So it's not like, you get rushed out there. You weren't really expecting it. I think if you go 1 for 2 on extra points, or no, I'm sorry, 2 for 3 on extra points throughout the day, and you're the punter, that's not like a bad day. I would let him at least miss 2, right? At least let him miss the second one before you throw him out of the game and just say you're not kicking anymore. I mean,
you want to know the other complication to that? He's the holder usually.
Maybe.
That's true.
So you're replacing two positions there.
Yeah.
You guys,
by the way, we did sign Greg Joseph, so we now have 2 kickers on the roster who have beaten the Giants with 60-plus yard kicks in the past. When he was with the Vikings, he made a 61-yarder, if you guys remember.
I think the Giants are the only team in the league that has an injury-prone kicker. I mean, really, if you think about it, like. Right? I mean, how many times has Gano been hurt?
Too much.
There's another word for injury-prone kickers. Retired football players. You don't stick around the league if you're an injury-prone kicker. Now we're even bashing on Gano. He might be the MVP of last year, and now we're so downtrodden that we're mad at this guy.
So we've sort of beat a dead horse with this game. The Jets game. I mean, the Jets Titans. Jets looked like they were struggling for a little bit. They pull it out again. Like I mentioned, Will Levis helps out the Jets with another one of those for inexplicable in field goal range. He decides to underhand a ball laterally to someone, and it turns into a turnover, and the coach just goes ballistic. Jets had a couple. I mean, the couple plays there by Braylon Allen and then even Breece Hall looked good on a couple plays, but give Aaron Rodgers time. He sits there and he showed he could pick teams apart, and they came back and won this game.
Yeah, look, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Look, a win's a win in the NFL, so I'm not going to apologize for a win. They didn't play great. But a few things that you hit the nail on the head with Braylon Allen. We have something here. This guy in a combination with Breece Hall. Look, this guy he's a bruiser. He's our short yardage guy now already. He's only 20 years old. I am so pumped about Braylon Allen. I can't even tell you. Combined with Breece Hall, we lost Jermaine Johnson. That really hurt. I wish we had
Was it an Achilles, Novak?
It was an Achilles, so he's done for the year. If only we had a Pro Bowl defensive end on the roster that could fill in from. Oh, what do you know? We do. Joe Douglas, go fucking sign him now. Stop. This is the luxury we have. This is the one position where we have an actual all-pro on our roster that we can bring in now. Go sign him. Do what you got to do. So yeah, that really sucks. What I've heard a lot from people is, Rodgers looks old. Rodgers looks old. I don't disagree. He does. He's not the same Aaron Rodgers. I would agree with that. And he's a dick. He's an asshole. He is annoying. He's all of those things. But I think the four of us would agree. The one thing that Aaron Rodgers is, the guy is smart. And he's not stupid. He knows what his limitations are now. So he's not going to extend plays like he used to. He's not going to run on 3rd and 7 anymore. And they're going to change their game plan, which they did. They're going to utilize the backs. They're going to have quick throws. The offensive line protected for him well. I think it was 3rd in the league as far as protection for the quarterback. So if that can continue, they can win. I mean, their defense is not as good as everyone thinks it is. I'm down on the defense. I think Sauce is hurt. DJ Reed is hurt. CJ Mosley got hurt. So we're seeing some injuries and whatnot. But look, at the end of the day, like I said, a win is a win. Happy with it. Didn't play great, especially in the first half, but they came out of it. They're 1-1 on to New England.
I opened up the podcast saying I was drunk, and it wasn't because I was upset with the Giants. It was because we played the Saleh game again. And for fuck's sake, I don't know how this guy is on the television screen more than any other coach by at least 3 times more. I like compared to Dable, it's 3 to 4 times as many times.
Well, compared with the Washington head coach, it's it's infinite more times. And because I still don't know who it was or what he looks like. And I watched
Same with the Titans coach. I have no idea who he is.
Yeah. I'll give people advice. If you play our solid drinking game at home, be very careful. And you don't need to drink in between solids. Like, you will drink plenty just drinking on the solids. You don't need to you don't need to take a sip between solids. You'll be just fine.
Or maybe like when they show the opposing head coach, that's when you take your sip of water and see when you pass out. Yeah.
I enjoyed that so much only because I was sitting next to Cardone, and I would go Saleh, and he's dejected for the Giants. He'd just go Robert Saleh, and he'd take another one.
Yeah.
I started going with the full name. Yeah, like just out of nowhere, like Robert Saleh.
I love though when you have the rest of the bar seeing
they were
exactly
all doing it.
What we are. They're like, holy shit, he really is up there. Like, it was at one point between the 3rd and 4th quarter, it was every play. At the end of the play, they'd show Saleh to see his reaction, which was nothing. And then they would show him during the extended times when like they had a little bit of the State Farm commercial in the box.
Yeah.
We got to find out what the thing is. What is the fascination? Like, we need an answer on this. We definitely uncovered it.
Maybe we should have someone from like Fox or actually, in this case, CBS, get them on the line and see what they say. We have to interview them for the pod.
And this doesn't have to be solid, but I love when the camera is trying to get a headshot. It could be anybody, like on the sidelines or something. And of course, and then there's a guy standing in front of him, and the camera just stays on like the guy's, like it could be like a defensive coordinator. You're just getting like his ass on the camera, like he's not, and the camera just stays fixated on it, just hoping that this DC will move or somebody. There's just, you know what I mean? The guy's like sitting on the bench and they're trying to get a shot of him, and the camera just stays on there. What am I looking for? What reaction do I need to see? Jesus. I hate everything.
So going into this next week, we got the Giants versus the Browns and the Jets versus the Patriots. Jets-Patriots is Thursday night. Giants-Browns, I think it's another 1:00 Sunday game. Guys, we're going to be facing, you brought it up, I think, Cardone, when we were talking about neighbors. We're going to be facing a much better defense. That Washington defense is among the bottom of the NFL, and we feasted on them in ways, but we also we're very fixated on neighbors. So how do we have someone step up? Do we overcome a better defense? How are we going to look against them, or is it going to be discombobulation again and we end up losing 25-3 or something?
Ooh. Oh, man,
that's not my prediction. I just threw out a random numbers.
I just don't know what to expect. The optimist side of my brain tells me, we're improving. And we're getting better. And every game, Jones gets a little healthier, and all this and that, and this and that. The pessimist side of my brain says what you just said, Scott, is great. We managed 3 touchdowns against maybe one of the 5 worst defenses in the league and lost the game. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I expect nothing. I think the last time we played these guys, it was a pretty good game, I believe. I don't remember exactly. It was that a couple of years ago. I think came down to the end, but they're a different team. We're a much different team. I don't I have no idea how to answer your question.
This is the week that Deshaun Watson all of a sudden gets back in people's memories.
He's
going to
be
good
great.
quarterback.
He's going to be great.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper's been struggling. He's going to end up with 10 receptions for 150 yards and a touchdown. I can just see it.
Yeah. We just couldn't have pulled that game out last week, right? We'd have been statistically in first place. We know that would be a mirage, but we would statistically be in first place. We then see, we then watch on another screen, we watch, hey, maybe that loss to Sam Darnold in Minnesota wasn't as bad as we thought. We couldn't have just pulled this one out and had a crumb of optimism on our table. No, we have to blow it.
Well, that's what I love too, right? I thought about that without even looking at the standings, after the Eagles lost on Monday, and the Cowboys lose. Think about that, guys, right? We get an Eagle and an Eagle devastating loss at home and a Cowboy loss. Both teams lose at home in a weekend where had the Giants held on, just found a way to win that game because of the division win, they would, statistically, like you said, Mike, be in first place. Imagine that after that Viking game. Imagine statistically being no, it's calm down, everyone. No one's canceling any. It's the Redskins in first place. Yeah.
Meanwhile, your first place Commanders. Woohoo!
Yeah. What a joke.
So Jets Patriots Thursday night. Patriots have not been as bad as you might think. They are one of those teams where they've hung around and they won the first game against Cincinnati. They hung around against Seattle, beaten at the end. They actually sort of blew the game there, and then it went into overtime and lost. But I don't know what to expect from the Patriots. I think Mayo has them playing pretty decently, but uneven performances. I don't know what do you think, Novak, where the Jets go on this one?
This game scares me a lot, and there's a reason why. And before I say this, I'm going to sound like an idiot, but trust me, there's a reason why I'm saying this. The Patriots are the type of team the Jets struggle with because they run the ball, they make simple throws. The Jets defense doesn't bait them into mistakes. They're actually a better matchup. The Jets are a better matchup. And I'm not saying he's better than Jacoby Brissett or worse than Jacoby Brissett. They're a better matchup against Josh Allen or even Patrick Mahomes in a way because they feel like they can make the impossible throw. And the Jets are a good coverage team, so they bait them into making a mistake. Jacoby Brissett is smart. He's a veteran. And dare I say the name game manager? Those types of quarterbacks are the ones where the Jets struggle. So this game has me very, very nervous. Plus, they are down probably 4 of their top defensive players. I think everyone's going to assume this is going to be a Jets easy win, and I do not think that at all. I think this is going to be a very low-scoring, very close game. The Patriots' defense is actually not that bad. So I'm very concerned about this game, to be honest. And I don't like a short week at all. I'm pissed that they have another primetime game on a short week. They played the week before on a Monday night. Now they got a Thursday. How is that fair in the first 3 games? So I'm concerned.
I bet the under on the Jets Titans, and it ended up being 41 on the dot. So that was a push for me. I mistakenly, because I was in North Carolina and I just looked at some scores, as I'm rushing through my DraftKings sportsbook because I can't do it from South Carolina, I bet on the Patriots getting 7 points in this game. So watch that be a push. So me and the Jets could be symbiotic here where they push all the time. Guys, around the league, lots of stuff was going on. I mean, start with, Dallas and Philly losing. Philly, the way they lost that game, I know Saquon's taking a lot of heat. He did Saquon things like he did in the Giants where crunch time, he can't make the play to seal a game. But they run the ball there. This is on Sirianni. They run the ball there 2 times. It's either a first down Philadelphia, they're running the clock out, or the Falcons have to go, 50 yards or whatever to try and get a field goal with hardly any time left. Meanwhile, before that, on the 4th down stop that the Eagles had against the Falcons, Gardner Johnson takes his helmet off. They throw the flag for it. So they see this, they throw the flag, and yet somehow 11 irate Eagles and Sirianni convince the ref to say, no, he didn't do anything. So they picked the flag up.
That play, no one could remotely convince me that his helmet was falling off, I think, as he described or something. So if your helmet's coming off, wouldn't you fucking like put it back, like grab it and put it back on?
Yes.
Instead of like fucking like shove the thing off your head?
Yeah.
Like, wait, right?
Yeah.
The helmet may have come up on the play. I'm not disputing that, but to tell me that, to try to convince me that he didn't intentionally rip it off, like, you knock it off.
So what does the ref think on that play though? Like, does he go, oh, you know what, you got a point, and you can't review it? It's
no, but Mike, I don't know
if the flag for some reason.
Exactly, because he threw the flag for some reason, because that's a fucking penalty in this league. You're not allowed to rip off your helmet on the field of play. And that's exactly what this clown did.
Yeah, and the caveat to that rule, right, is that if it gets knocked off, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But shouldn't it also be part of the rule that you have to find it and put it back on? I mean, but
that's a good point. I never thought of that, Mike. That is a very good point.
And if it's fine if it's not, but I mean, Cardone just said it all right there. I mean, my helmet's a little loose, I can fucking throw it off into the stands. That's not a penalty now. You know, who knows what goes through these guys' minds? I don't. I have no idea.
The best part about
reaction? Why is your natural reaction not to like put it back on instead of? That's what I'm miffed about.
The best part about that play is the culmination of it. So after the refs tell him it's okay that his helmet popped off, he still celebrates without the helmet, running with the helmet like this down to the end zone. And who's there to greet him in the end zone to give him a high five but his fucking coach? This guy is such a goddamn clown.
Oh, he is. And the Big Dom, who they had to show too.
Big Dom was part of a skit pregame.
I know.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Thank God I missed that.
To go back, Scott, to your point about Barkley and then Sirianni at the end of the game. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people, let's face it, people who are not Giants fans don't watch the Giants. They don't just watch for Saquon when he was there. So they probably weren't privy to a lot of this stuff about Saquon just dropping really big time game altering passes. And remember when he ran out of bounds when we were in a similar situation? We tried to run the ball to do what Scott just said, and he went out of bounds. This is, I mean, Eagles fans seem a little shocked. This is a textbook Saquon play. When I saw them throw him the ball, I said, "Oh, he'll catch this," and because being sarcastic, right? Like, of course he'll catch it with a fucking green uniform on, but no, same old thing. But to Scott's point, why are they even calling that play? I mean, that takes me back to the 49ers game that we lost in the playoffs all those years ago with Shockey, and it was the same thing. Like, we were at a moment of the game where it was statistically impossible to lose the game had we not thrown the ball again. And this is the same situation here. Now, I don't think they could have got themselves to a statistically impossible place, but let's just say statistically very, very, very improbable.
Well, hey, you say that, but AWS had the Eagles winning percentage above 99% in that game at the last
After
drive.
He dropped the ball?
No, during that drive going down there.
Yeah.
There were two games where the statistical probability of winning was in the mid 90s or higher that the teams ended up losing.
And the team lost. Yeah.
It happens week after week after week, which, if you know anything about statistics, should tell you they weren't 99% to win. I mean, it happens against those stats.
That should be the 1,132 to nothing scenario where the Giants had 3 touchdowns. And
You should only be at 99% to win a game in the middle of the fourth quarter when you're up by 5 touchdowns. That's 99%. Anything other than that is less. That's just.
By the way, you were talking earlier about the refs in hockey swallowing their whistle. We saw again another play involving the Chiefs where no whistle was blown, or actually a whistle was blown. A flag was thrown on a 4th and 16. And I've seen this debated over and over again, how, well, you got to call that. We have seen time and again in the NFL where, no, they don't call that. The other team just celebrates and runs off the field because it's a fourth down stop, and you've just awarded a team a fourth down conversion on a Hail Mary.
Yeah. To Novak's point at the beginning, you can't blame the refs for losing the game anymore. Guess who can blame the refs this week? The Bengals, because they won the game. The game was over. That play extended the game. So,
my issue on that call, if it's pass interference, fine. Throw it at the point that it happened. But again, just like the Jet game last year, he waited till the ball was on the ground and rolling and almost coming to a complete stop before he threw the flag.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, if Rashee Rice catches that ball cleanly, even if it was pass interference, that flag is not coming out. I almost feel like the ref waited to make sure that Rice didn't catch the ball, and then he threw the flag.
That flag was not thrown until that ball was on the ground. And
that's my point. Like, I think the flag is not coming out if Rice makes the catch. When it happens and you throw the flag, I have less of an issue with it. But, again, because it's the Chiefs, it's back in the back of their head. They got to win this game. Throw the flag then.
And I think I showed you guys the stat, or I sent the stat to you, that in the last 3 years or 4 years or whatever it is, Mahomes has had 17 interceptions overturned on penalties.
Wow. That's unbelievable. That stat is the best I've heard yet.
That's an awesome stat.
And the next closest guy was Burrow, believe it or not, at like 8 or 9. It was something. It was in the single digits. I know that.
Yep. Well, being on vacation this week and being home and not working, I did see a lot of coverage of the NFL over these couple days, and that stat actually got announced, which I'm surprised. They were talking about it, but there was like 3 panelists on this show. The one guy was talking, the other one was nodding his head. I don't know these guys' names. I don't usually watch it, but the one guy was defending that stat and saying, well, Mahomes is just smart. If he sees a player getting interfered with, he throws the ball to them. Oh yeah. Yeah. So that's Mahomes causing those. He places the ball in such a place where the defender has to interfere. I've heard it all. Yeah.
But that's where you play the Frank Drebin Naked Gun clip of like, hey, Mr. Analyst, hey, that we got that Model D83 Swedish short grip suck machine in that you ordered for Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. How many of you watching that go back to the Eagles game, but talking about what we're talking about now? How long did you stare at the screen waiting for a flag to come out after the final interception?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just sat there like,
yeah.
That was a pretty hard. There was a hard hit on Hurts. I thought
where is it?
Yeah. By the way, we joke about this, but that Giants, the first stop they got, Mike was celebrating, and I said flag, and he's like, no, and I was joking. So I joked, and there was still another couple beats that happened, and then the flag was shown on the screen. Yeah. So
I was even clapping on that one, and I usually I'm on a 5-second delay with those third down incompletions.
Have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mentioned the penalty statistics last week, and one thing to note is that the Browns have actually had the most penalties in the league, 26 in the first 2 games. So think about that. This team has had 13. They've averaged 13 penalties a game. I think last week I told you that there were, half the teams had 7 or more penalties. Well, after week 2, there are 14 teams that are averaging 8 flags or more a game. So almost half the league is averaging 8 flags or more a game.
And those are the ones that are accepted, right? There's always a couple here and there that are declined. Those don't officially count in that statistic, right, Scott? I mean, it's those are ones that are accepted by the other opposing team.
Well, this might be flags thrown. I have to see the stat.
Okay.
There is a flags thrown versus an accepted.
Versus a penalty, yeah. So
versus actual penalty.
Okay. Not that it matters. It doesn't make a difference. I mean, but like you said, I love the term flag fest. Every game has turned into a flag fest. It just is. It's the NBA. It's become like the NBA, guys, where you can't go 2 possessions in the NBA without a whistle. That's the NFL. Think about a drive of at least I don't know, 4 or 5 plays. How are you going that many plays anymore without, seeing a flag? Think about it.
I don't know how
can
it
you
is
get 5
in some of
plays in
these
a row?
games. Like I didn't watch any of the Carolina game this week, so I have no idea what happened there. But even in the Eagles Falcons game, there was a stretch there of 6 plays where we saw a flag every play. Like, how does that happen within a game in a stretch like that? It shouldn't ever happen.
I mean, even on a touchdown, I used to like to watch, like, they get the touchdown, they spike the ball, they start, whatever, high-fiving, chest pumping, whatever they do. My eyes are fixated on that center of the screen to see if a little yellow sign comes up.
Yeah. Has to be.
Yeah. It's, and what's dead? I was thinking about this actually while we were watching the game. It's dead in the NFL. The what do you call it when you get a bad penalty on you? So when the other team gets the ball back, they immediately call holding. I can't think of the name for that. What's the give back call or whatever? Makeup call. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah. Makeup call. The makeup call's dead. Yes. That does not happen anymore.
That's a good point, Mike. It is dead.
Yeah. So they've been making up all game long.
Yeah. Sticking close to home. Bryce Young. Oh. Bryce Young's benched. So year 2. And this is funny because Dave Canales, he's not a household name, so many people don't know. He's the coach of the Panthers. He comes out on the night of Sunday and says, Bryce did some good things out there. He's our quarterback. He's our guy going forward. And then Monday, after he's looked at the tape, he comes back and he says, well, we're making a change and it's completely my decision. If that's completely his decision, then I'm fucking working for ESPN, not just doing a podcast with you fucking guys.
Yeah.
I mean, we said it on the live pod. I said it was going to be a historically bad team. I think Mike and I said 2 wins, I think, if I remember correctly. I don't know that they get 2.
With Andy Dalton, they might.
Well, they might, but even with Andy Dalton, this is the worst organization in professional sports. And I don't think there's a close second. I mean, I can't think of all the hockey teams that I don't, like Columbus Blue Jackets. I don't know. But I would imagine that the Panthers are the worst organization in all of sports right now.
Yeah, it might be.
Hard to argue.
Hard to argue.
Hard to argue that, man. Yeah.
How long before they put Sir Purr at quarterback?
You beat me to that.
I thought I'd throw it up there and tee it up for you.
You did. Damn it.
I won't say if, I'll say when. Do they go back to Young when Dalton gets hurt? Because what's after that?
I don't even know who their third string is.
Who else is on that roster?
I don't know if they have a third string.
Maybe they can then trade for Zach.
Speaking of going to third strings, though, guys, looking around the league, the injuries are getting out of hand so far.
Yep.
I mean, the number of people that are out, not just games, but they're calling them week to week, months, IR guys. I mean, we've seen Tua take the concussion hit, which we haven't talked about because that happened on Thursday night. But Debo's going to be out a few games. AJ Brown, they're saying now, is going to be out a few weeks.
Pacheco.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Pacheco broke a fibia or whatever. They say that could be 6 to 8 weeks. We're just seeing a lot of skill players that are down for, multiple weeks. And I'll tell you why this may bubble up to the top, because the NFL is increasingly becoming a fantasy football driven league. And when you have all these name players being injured, this may be something that they do step in finally and really do something for player safety rather than the shit that they've said is for player safety.
I was just going to ask, how can this be possible? How can it be possible?
Yeah.
They've taken away all those injuries we had during kickoffs, which still haven't seen any definitive evidence that was happening. But yeah, all those injuries that happened during the kickoffs, they're gone. And now somehow we're like setting records for injury through 2 weeks. They've tried so hard and done so many impactful things. It's all crap.
The other thing we've seen too with the rookie quarterbacks, QB play, you realize not a single rookie quarterback, and this includes Daniels, who moved the Redskins up and down the field. None of the rookie quarterbacks has thrown a touchdown pass this year. And the number of guys that I'm seeing throw for under 150 yards is incredible. I mean, Justin Fields is getting a ton of credit for Pittsburgh being 2-0. And I think the guy's totals in his games are both under 120 yards passing. I could be wrong on that, but it's close to that.
Yeah, well, I know all of us. I mean, this was easy to predict the beginning of the year that Sam Darnold's the best quarterback playing, which statistically he is by a pretty large margin right now. Easy to see that coming, right? But Derek Carr's the highest rated quarterback. Baker Mayfield's right up there. I mean, this is what we talk about all the time with roster over evaluation or calling teams with rookies at these positions upgrades right out of the bat. I mean, Field sucks. He's a better quarterback than what's his name that they drafted?
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams. He's a better quarterback than Caleb Williams right now. Probably long term he won't be, but yeah, there's no upgrade for the Bears at quarterback. Believe it or not. I mean, that seems impossible to think of, but there's been no upgrade. This is pretty amazing start to the year.
But you know what's amazing? Yeah, I was gonna say real quick, Novak, like. This is one of the things I do love about the NFL is that all the experts, all the preseason analysis, all the things. Remember, I said at the beer temple that night, what we learned from the preseason. I gave a list of things, so it's all bullshit. Throw that all out the window. The only I was going to mention, I thought the NFC South was supposed to, aside from Carolina, of course, thought the NFC South was supposed to suck, right? We play that whole division this year. I mean, look at New Orleans and Tampa and Atlanta, the other night, like what they're doing. So aside from the absolute certainty of the Giants fucking starting 0-2 every year, the NFL is pretty much, it's unpredictable and it's just a crapshoot. By the way, can I just sneak a stat in here if you guys don't mind? Speaking of 0-2,
10 of the last 12 years.
Well, I think I looked at it. I heard 10 of 12, but it's actually I think, believe it, it's only 9 of 12. I think there was a year snuck in there that they snuck a 1-1 in there back in what year, I don't know, recently 2022 or something like that. Or no, I'm sorry.
That just so
last year they were 1-1. Yeah. What's that, Scott?
I did that so you could correct me.
No, I had to look. I just wanted to see how far back it went, and yeah, 9 out of. So think about that. We talk about our season ending 9 out of 12 years. They've been they've started at least 0-2. Sickening.
Yep, out of the gate. More than a 90% chance to not make the playoffs. Just out of the gate. Just out of the gate.
Yeah.
Just 2 weeks in, boom, every year.
I had to laugh this week because this goes to one of Mike's pet peeves from before. Kyler Murray had a good game, and people are, hey, Kyler is back. You guys buried him. You put him down. You said he wasn't going to be doing anything, and Mike always says this. It's the media who told us that. And now the media is throwing it back at us going, you were the ones that said he was dead. What's going on? All of a sudden, Kyler Murray, you might as well call him an MVP because he's scrambling around and throwing touchdown passes, and this amazes people. He's still a mediocre quarterback, but people are going to go nuts over him. But Mike, to your point, the media is the one that buried him last year and the year before, Call of Duty, everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't come up with this stuff. We don't have the information until they give it to us. I mean, we can look at stats, but that's all we've got. That to me is one of the funniest things. And it's one of these new media things, right? It's where they say something and then when it changes, they act like, oh, of course it changed. Of course, you guys are idiots. Or the other one is they never make a statement anymore. Everything's a question. Is Kyler Murray gone? Is Kyler Murray dead? And then when they come back, they said, no, we never said that. We just asked the question.
And one last quarterback question: When are we gonna say that Trevor Lawrence is a bust?
That is creeping into the vernacular these days.
Right. I mean, it has to be in the discussion now. I'm sorry.
It does have to be in the
some
discussion.
Of these other guys.
Yeah.
I mean, they named the stadium after him, apparently. Trevor Banks Stadium, or what do they call it?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I was saying at the end of last year,
pretty bad.
I still think, and we may see some improvement in the record this year because of Harbaugh being there. I've asked the same question over Justin Herbert. Everyone talks about this guy as he's the anointed one, but has he really escalated to that?
He's a 5-year talented quarterback. I mean, really. Every year, this guy has got so much talent, so much talent. He's like Jeff George.
Oh,
Yep.
Jeff George.
So, Mike, you got pet peeves this week?
Yeah, of course I do. Ever since Lowe called me out, I've come with a pet peeve. I'm not gonna come to the table
Disappoint
empty-handed
our
anymore.
fans. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so my pet peeve this week, we were kind of stepping on it earlier, but it's about the Giants. I'm not only am I staying in the NFL, but I'm staying right home, right in our own kitchen. And it's, as Cardone mentions all the time, nothing has changed. Only the jerseys are the same. And everything, coaches, players, they've all changed, but the results haven't changed in so long that it's crazy. And one of those results that, maybe every fan feels a little bit like this about their team. And Novak mentioned earlier about overcoming penalties and stuff like that. The Giants cannot overcome anything. And this isn't just a Dable recent thing. This goes back a handful of head coaches now. If we miss a big tackle, it's going to be for a huge third down conversion that will it'll be in the last drive of the game, and it'll end up being huge. If we miss a field goal or miss an extra point, we always pay for that. Always pay for that. We don't miss field goals when we're beating someone 31-17. We miss them when it's so important to get it. Injuries. We never can survive an injury to one of our top 10 players on the team. Other teams just seem to eat us alive then at that position. That comes going with not having some depth. And of course, the big one is we don't overcome a penalty. Not just a penalty, a bad call against us will cost us something. There's no question. So I don't know what it is about this team, but we don't overcome anything. Everything has to be perfect, right? So again, this week, the great example where our kicker gets hurt. Scott talked about all of the malfeasance that happened after that. We're not being able to overcome it. But of course, that cost us the game, right? It can't be either that Washington just blows us out and not having the kicker didn't matter. It can't be that we win by such a comfortable margin. Oh, like say 3 touchdowns. It can't be that we win by a comfortable enough margin where not having the kicker doesn't hurt us. No, the minute Gano grabbed for his hamstring, I'm sitting there and I knew it. This is going to cost us the game today.
Yeah.
And, we talked about a lot of things. The defense not playing so good. The offense played a little bit better, but we win that game if we have a kicker. There's no doubt in my mind that if Graham Gano is healthy that whole game, and, we still needed more than 21 because the defense gave up 21. But I think a lot of the way Washington played that game, Scott mentioned this at the bar, and it was a brilliant analysis, I thought. He said, you know what? If you're Washington, the other team doesn't have a kicker, you take points. You just keep taking points. You don't go for it on fourth downs. You don't do anything that, could end the game right there. You just keep taking points because they have to score touchdowns to beat us. So every drive for the Giants that day became like this drive at the end of a game where a field goal isn't going to win it for you and you need to score. So that, that was what I thought about it after a while. And I just said, no, we don't survive those things. It doesn't, the football gods are going to make sure that we pay for those things.
Yeah. I thought about that even at the first point of adversity that we've hit in certain years. Like look at last year, that first Dallas game. So you have that first drive where you're driving down. It looks pretty good. Jones gets he gets stopped on third down. We set up for the field goal. The field goal gets blocked. And on that block, Andrew Thomas gets hurt. A bunch of other people are injured on stuff happening, and we don't overcome it. We literally lose the season because of all the stuff that happened because of one play because we can't overcome it.
Yeah. Or anytime we try to do something that like other teams do. Remember when we tried the tush push and Jones and an offensive lineman got hurt? We didn't get it anyway. It's like we're just clowns. We are just like when the Giants come to town, it's like that clown car pulls up and we come piling out,
Benny Hill music.
Yeah.
like years ago as a gimmick, Chad fucking Ochocinco's coming off the Bengal bench and kicking extra points in a game.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have a guy do it.
I think just for fun, I think they did that. I don't remember if their kicker got hurt, but Ochocinco's out there drilling field goals right down the middle, high up on the net. But to your point, Mike, the game has to be absolutely perfect for the New York Giants to win a game. And can I just one question on that? What the fact that we had to go for 2 the entire game, well, really only 2 times after scores. I would love to know what our all-time percentage of getting 2-point conversions is, because it seems like the entire league gets them when they really need them. We never get fucking 2-point conversions. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Never.
We had a good run where we would hand off to Barkley. He'd get us
Barkley
a few.
would get them.
Yeah, Barkley would get a couple. I mean, the only one I can really remember sticks out in my head is at Tennessee week 1, where Dable went for the jugular on that one. For the win. But outside of that, I can't remember a time where we absolutely had to have a 2-point conversion and we got it. Never.
Novak, pet peeve?
Yeah, so mine is one that I've mentioned before, and there's a lot of things that happened this past weekend that are around this, but last week I was very angry about the Chiefs and Xavier Worthy, and this I'm not as angry. I'm almost in apathy at this point, because the NFL, with this overexposure of numerous things, number one being those fucking Kelseys. Like I'm just. Did you watch the Monday night game? Like,
yes.
I'm watching the regular ESPN, and Jason Kelsey's in the pregame. Then he's in the booth. Then I switch over to the Mannycast. He's on there. He's in the postgame. He's in the pregame. He's running around commercials. He's on every fucking commercial. Like, I'm so tired of the NFL. Like, they better watch it, because this overexposure of the Kelseys and Brady and the Chiefs and the Eagles and fantasy football and these stupid commercials and Pat McAfee, like, have some originality. They suffer from this, like, pushing this same narrative down our throats every single weekend. I'm so tired of it. And it's not even Taylor Swift. I'm so over that at this point. I'm apathetic at this point. I'm not angry about it. Just please stop. I'm tired of the overexposure, and the Kelseys, number one, bother me the most. And Jason Kelsey, like I said last year, I think this was my pet peeve. He was a center. No one cares about centers. And just because he drinks beer and has chest hair doesn't make him all that interesting. Stop.
Yeah, and there was a skit before the game. Jason Kelsey going in the locker room. His retina scanner didn't work getting in there, but Big Dom lets him in. So Big Dom worms his way into the pregame. How is the fucking head of security for an NFL team become a celebrity?
That too. That's another thing. Like, it was funny for like 5 minutes last year. Stop it. No one cares about Dom.
Yeah. To drive it home. I just started on my vacation this week watching The Boys. Do you guys watch The Boys?
Oh, The Boys is awesome.
Yeah, good show.
Homelander. Fantastic.
But it makes me it made me think of the NFL. You know, the way everyone inside that building runs around. They're like, "Oh, you're up 32 points with the 18 to 56 demographic. More of that. You know, hammer that." That's it. Just I really was watching it and thinking, I imagine this is the NFL headquarters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's the thing is, like, I can guarantee you, if someone would interview the four of us before any game, we can tell you the theme of the game. I don't care if it's the Jaguars and the Falcons. We could sit there and say, they're going to talk about this, and this, and we will know the themes without them. And, like, we're just regular fans, and we know this stuff. Like, it's enough.
The predictability of this league.
I think that's what it is too. Yes.
It's the cover. It's off the field and even on the field stuff.
Yep.
I mean, obviously the on field stuff. Sometimes there's things that you don't know are going to obviously, going to occur. But to your point, Novak, I think it's the my God, the predictability and the scripted narrative off the field bullshit. Pre-game, halftime, and post-game is just it's at a all-time sickening point right now. Unwatchable.
It is, and it was Jason Kelsey's return to the link. What?
God.
He's a broadcaster. I mean, come on. Did they do that when Matt Ryan returned to Atlanta when he was a broadcaster?
He's retired now. Doesn't he have time to fucking trim those caterpillar eyebrows now?
Something. Yes.
The guy must have at least a few minutes on hand to find a razor or something. Go to, just take care of this dude. I can't look at his face.
We need to give him some of our Manscaped equipment.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, Cardone, pet peeve?
I'm sure I've used this one in the past, and I don't mind if this is a repeat. I must have brought this one up, but the worst rule change the NFL ever did was rolling the clock at all as much as possible in this league. And it used to be years ago, guys, when you went out of bounds on any play at any time of the game, the clock would stop. The other contributing factor to this is that because there's such a high percentage of completions in this league versus the incomplete pass, it used to be not that long ago where everybody, 60% completion percentage was a high number, for a quarterback. Now it's like 70, So looking at just the Giants, as far as they have forced a total of 11 incompletions to Sam Darnold and Jaden Daniels in the first 2 games. So what that means, guys, is that with the clock never stops running. It just never stops running. And I looked up, and Scott, you already made mention of it, like as far as the lack of possessions by both of these teams in this game with the Giants and the Redskins. So the Giants had the ball. They scored a touchdown on their first possession. That was a 7-play, 53-yard drive. 4 minutes and 18 seconds. The Commanders had drives the entire game, just chewing and chomping the clock away. The Giants had punted away on their second possession. By the time they got the ball, only for the third time in this game, there was 1 minute and 50 seconds left in the first half, and they had run a total of 12 fucking plays offensively. And you would think, my God, how pathetic, if you weren't watching that game, because they showed the stat. When the Giants took over, when they got the ball for the third time with less than 2 minutes to go in the first half, it was a 9-6 game. Washington was up 9-6. The Giants were just getting the ball for the third time. And you would think like, oh my God, the Giants are getting dominated. Not really. They had scored a touchdown and punted on a 5-play drive, 31 yards on their previous drive. To get the ball, think about that. So to have the ball only for the third time with less than 2 minutes and a half, and having run 12 plays, it never gets talked about. It's never been brought up. It's never, ever analyzed. My God, the clock never stops running in this league, and they're never going to go back to the old days of doing that. So it's agonizing when you just see the clock ticking away. And it happens in every game. I mean, it's the biggest contributing factors are I think the 2 that I highlighted, guys. The going out of bounds, the clock never stops. If you notice when a guy runs out of bounds, I look at the clock and it may stop for maybe 3 seconds. And I've actually looked at the next play that is snapped, and I'm counting in my head. Wow, that would have saved 25 seconds. That would have saved 20 seconds. That would have saved 17. And when you add up all those seconds, based on when the clock should have stopped in the old days versus now, who knows how many minutes are being lost in an NFL game? It's the rolling clock, guys. It's been a pet peeve of mine, and because it affected my Giant game this weekend, where I look up, I see 12 plays with 2 minutes left to go in a half. Just bullshit.
Well, Mike and I said that when that rule was first put in place, we said, why are we doing this? Like, do we really need to speed the NFL games up? And the sad truth is that the time that they've saved with the clock stoppages is only gone to commercials. Mm-hmm. So games aren't going any longer in terms of the actual time that they last. It's just that they're able to add more ad time. But you know what? It's bled into college now. College used to be one of those things. Every time you got a first down, it stopped until they moved the chains. Well, that's accelerated. Even when you go out of bounds in college now, that's accelerated too. It completely takes away the strategy of going out of bounds. Like going out of bounds before, like if you did it in the first quarter, it just stopped the clock, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And it stayed stopped until you snapped the ball.
Yeah.
No one, I don't know who ever complained about that. Were fans going, we got to speed these games up.
That, and then what we just talked about earlier with the continuing third down penalties and keeping drives alive. So that chews up more clock. So remember when it used to be like, oh my God, 8-minute drive on the first, like now 8, 9, 10, 11-minute drives. They're just common. They're common day things. It doesn't even matter, because the clock never stops. So the Commanders, they didn't even punch the ball in the end zone. And you look at their, the first drive, 9:36. Then, another one, 6.5, 5, 4. So they had, all right, maybe not a great example of this particular game, but you look at drives that only result even in field goals, and they're chewing up 7, 8, 9 minutes for field goal drives. Remember, it used to be, because you used to get 3 and outs, you used to have incompletions, the clock would stop going out of bounds. It wasn't uncommon, guys, to have the ball, if you received the opening kickoff, you'd have the ball maybe 3 times in the first quarter.
And I may be wrong, but I think that it used to be every penalty stopped the clock. Nowadays, you get a penalty and they wind the clock,
Yeah.
And they sold it to us that if you remember, they sold that to us by saying, well, the casual fan doesn't like the length of the game. That's more gaslighting. That's a lie. Games have magically always been 3 hours long.
Yep.
As Novak said, no matter what they do in the NFL, all it does is they're trying to speed the game up for themselves so they can get more ads on TV in the 3-hour window.
Yep.
Has nothing to do with, I'm sure they've rolled out safety as a reason for doing it. I'm sure they've rolled out every heart-touching, casual fans don't like these games that long. Well, you've never even shortened it by a minute.
No.
So
we still have
lie.
games, the Sunday night game comes on at 8:20. There are still games at 4:00 that are going on until 7:45 sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's not because they've artificially increased the game. It's because of the ads.
Yeah. They've got 9 more commercials at $200,000 a piece or $300,000 a piece. And they're adding $2-3 million a game times 16 games a week. I mean, like NFL, it's all about the bottom line.
That's it.
Yeah. If they really wanted to shorten the game with these rules, I mean, they've done the right things. The game would be shorter if they just left the same amount of ads in. We'd be looking at a 2-hour and 20-minute, 2.5-hour game.
Yeah.
So that's on the table if they really want that. If they're really trying to appeal to the casual fan, they could do it. As Novak said, at the cost of, $750,000 per game, maybe, but they could do it.
Okay. So we do have several questions this week.
Do you have a pet peeve, Scott?
Actually, I didn't give my pet peeve. No.
Hey.
So my pet peeve, we've already danced around this too. It's just it's the over the top announcing. It especially rears its head with the primetime games, but you see Collinsworth and Romo are 2 of the guys that really do it a lot. With Collinsworth, I've watched 2 games now in the regular season, and in those games, he's made superlatives as if what we're seeing is unprecedented. Now, the first game we watched, I think it was Detroit and the Rams. The second game was Houston and Chicago. And the way he talked about Caleb Williams until Caleb Williams looked like shit, he made that seem out to be right. And then he started talking about CJ Stroud. And the thing is, what they are saying does not jibe with what we're seeing. And they're taking NFL fans for being fools. I think the one I really wanted to latch onto was Romo. So Romo was doing the Kansas City game, and he said maybe the most absurd thing I ever said, or I've ever heard said. So Mahomes throws a ball into the ground, and it's clear that it slips out of his hand. Well, Romo actually said that Mahomes intentionally did that because his receiver was covered and it was a smart play throwing the ball in the dirt. And you look at the replay and he wanted to throw the ball. It directionally just went out of his hand bad. Eli used to make bad throws every now and then. All quarterbacks make bad throws. For some reason, Patrick Mahomes does not make bad throws. I touched upon it with the Kyler Murray stuff. Announcers are fascinated too with guys who make these no-look passes. So Kyler Murray throws a pass and he starts celebrating before he's going off the field, knowing he completed a touchdown pass. Now, if that thing was not complete, they'd be making fun of this guy like he's a tool. But because he completed a touchdown pass, look at Kyler Murray. Look at the confidence he has. And we have to be, to use Mike's term, gaslit. We're gaslit all the time on these players. Let the people watch the games and make their own opinions. I don't understand why we're told what we have seen is the best we've ever seen, because a lot of times it's not.
Great stuff.
It's wild out there.
One of my most annoying analyst comments: prisoner of the moment. Right? It's what it is, though. It's the best ever. You know,
that Mahomes play is crazy, though. Go back and watch it. He throws a bullet into the ground, and Romo is praising him for throwing it into the dirt as if he's made a spectacular play to avoid a defender.
Anytime the Chiefs are on, you can expect a 3-hour tongue bath. I mean, for Mahomes. Yeah. I mean, you can.
It's true.
Everyone's going to do it.
Yeah. A bad pass from Patrick Mahomes just does not fit this narrative that they've written.
Nope.
The announcers love the pass interference calls more than Chiefs fans, because if Mahomes has 17 more interceptions over the last 2 or 3 years, whatever it was, Scott, then those numbers don't look so good. That's strapping a bunch of INTs onto your
that's a lot.
onto your stat line. That's a bunch. So yeah.
Think how much better a quarterback could be knowing that in a big spot on 3rd and long, just throw it up. Just throw it up there and you'll get a pass interference call. You would take chances. You wouldn't do dump offs. You would, I can't.
I don't know why they don't even do it more often. I really don't.
I don't either.
I really don't. 3rd and long, like sometimes, especially if you're like, somewhat near in the middle of the field, midfield, and maybe not backed up in your own zone, but like just launch it up there. They go for like the little handoff or maybe a check down for like 5 yards, to add to the punt, let's say, the token. Nah, just fucking just launch it up in the air. Why not?
Give your wide receiver acting classes. Just bang into the guy covering you and flail around like you've been hurt.
Yeah. Just show them the Zach Ertz play. Yeah, exactly.
Show them soccer players.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at like the all-22 with the Eagles on a 3rd and long, every receiver turns to the officials. They are coached up to do that. Like we're just gonna wing it out there, and if you feel someone grab your jersey, or if you feel someone touch you, pull away, just twist or whatever you have to do to draw the officials' attention to the fact that guy's hand's on your jersey. It's it's sad that that kind of thing has to happen in the league, where, coaches, I'm sure now are, if we're just sitting here essentially watching with any interest, each of us watching really one game a week with a high amount of interest, and we notice it enough to see the trends and patterns. Cardone and I were talking again at Mulligan's about the first down holding. And, these are just trends that aren't really that difficult to spot. Coaches are taking advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they got to be.
Yep.
Probably not ours.
So we do have several questions this week. So my friend Ogre, and this is a good tie-in, because Ogre and a lot of my old college friends would go back and kick field goals on the Bucknell Stadium field while having a lot of drinks in them. And I guarantee you sign up 8 of us, and we're going to make field goals better than Gillen did, or anyone that we could pull off. So that goes to show you the malpractice the Giants had of not being able to kick field goals, because Ogre with a case of beer in him could drill a 40-yarder in his sleep. So, but he did ask. He did ask surprisingly about field goals. He said, "How many games have to be lost where coaches keep passing up field goals instead of going for a first down or for a touchdown?" This is not addressed to the Giants. This is just league wide. And we've seen this time and again. We saw it during the Eagle-Falcon game early on. We saw it in the Eagle-Falcon game a little bit later. But, guys, we see this time and again. How many times are teams going for it on 4th and 3, 4th and 4 from the opposing team's 20, where it's a 37-yard field goal. It's an automatic 3, and they're going for the field goal.
Doesn't get talked about enough.
I cannot believe that when every time the announcers say the same thing. Well, I think the analytics support this. You can't tell me the analytics support that when you have a sure 3 versus a touch possibility of turning the ball over
of 0. It doesn't get talked about enough. You guys certainly know how I feel about it. My God, the idea of getting 3 points, for some reason, it's a defeat. We talk about it all the time on our show here. I mean, but and I'm so glad. And I'll just pick on Sirianni, Monday night again, because first quarter again, go up 3-0. Fuck it. We'll do enough to win this game. And it came back, and it's burned a lot of coaches and a lot of teams. And when it happens early in the game, it gets swept under the rug because you don't even remember that early in the game. You only really think about the ones in the late fourth quarter that decide games. But how do you think those games get decided? Everything that happens up to that. What do we always say, guys? Everything matters. Like every play in a game matters. Every point matters. It all matters.
Yep. Ask Detroit Lions fans how they feel about it.
Yeah.
I mean, they were some boneheaded decisions away from being in a Super Bowl.
Yep.
This idea that field goals, as Cardone just said, that it's been pounded on the lie, which, by the way, it's a lie. You can win a game with field goals, maybe not very often with just field goals, but if you go, everyone always says it. So they say two things that contradict each other. They don't care. And one is statistically true. Like something like 75 or 8 or even more % of the games in this league are decided by one score or less.
Yes.
But it's okay to pass up field goals.
Right.
Why?
I don't
understand it.
It makes no sense. It's, and the league and the media love it. That's why what Cardone said, you don't hear about it enough. I don't hear anybody on sports media like going off on what are these coaches doing? It's because they love it. They all want them to do it. Mm-hmm. Coaches don't care because this analytics thing has given them a free pass. Some of the decisions Campbell made in the NFC Championship game would, like, not even that long ago, would be damn near fireable offenses. Passing up field goals, coaches' decisions, that's why they get paid so much. They get paid to make these calls. And, I just go back to guys like Coughlin and Parcells because those are the guys I know. But there's been a lot of great coaches in the history of the league who they just knew it. Just points. And it's
any
not
Steelers coach. And that's why the Steelers have been a great franchise, for how many years.
And on top of the fact, no one talks about this too. Like when we were growing up, that guy with the half foot hit like a 60-yarder. That was like the biggest thing. Like we still heard about that like 20 years later,
Dempsey.
right? Tom Dempsey. These guys are nailing 58-yarders like it's a 32-yarder when we were growing up.
I know.
These kickers don't miss. All of them are good. So why wouldn't you take these points? Like I just don't understand it. Like you used to do that and go and forth because your kickers were not that reliable. Mm-hmm. These guys don't. I'm not saying they don't miss. They do, but they're pretty freaking good across the board.
Have you seen the make percentage so far in 2 weeks of field goals over 50 yards?
Yeah,
I think only one's been missed. Yeah. Actually, 2 have been missed. They've both been by Justin Tucker.
Crazy. I mean, I remember when field goal like 52
plus yards, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. They weren't even attempted that closer. Much.
Yeah.
Someone's going to make a 70-yarder. It's going to happen.
Oh,
it's gonna happen. Someday someone is going to do it.
It may be this season.
It might be.
It may be.
Someone in Denver with a big leg. I mean, it could happen.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
So a friend of the show, Coons, asks, what's our biggest surprise team that's 2-0? And our biggest appointment or our biggest disappointment that's 0-2?
For me, I think there's 2 teams. Number 1, the Ravens 0-2 is a shocker for me. And the biggest surprise for me is the Vikings at 2-0. Especially because they beat the 49ers. I didn't see that coming for shit.
Yeah, I'll make this one easy too. I agree completely with Novak. My 2 were the Ravens and the Vikings.
Yeah, I think at 0-2, it's certainly the Ravens. I mean, if you guys remember, just a few weeks ago, I picked them to be in the Super Bowl, I think. No, I actually picked the Bills, but it was only to change because you guys are all picking the Ravens, so I changed my mind. But to me, the biggest surprise is the Saints. I think everyone knew they were going to be 1-0, but just for the way they beat Dallas. I thought the Saints were going to be a toilet bowl team. Like, my wife wanted to take them in the first week of the suicide pool, the Saints. And I'm like, I know, honey, I know what that looks like, but they're that one's,
Yeah.
and she did, and I got knocked out of the pool picking Cincinnati. She's still riding. But anyway, yeah, I'd go with the Saints.
You just grabbed my. I was just about to say New Orleans just because of the way, in the fashion in which they won. Now they beat Carolina. That's what I was expected, but the way they just manhandled Dallas. So, yeah, I think for my, let's see. I mean, if my 2-0 team, it's hard. I mean, maybe probably Minnesota. I mean, I think Novak, you just said Minnesota. Certainly wasn't expecting that. And for my 0-2 team, Baltimore's right there, but also I think Cincinnati's pretty shocking that they're 0-2. Yeah. And it's also who you lost to. They losing to New England. I mean, on paper, New England's supposed to be, before this, top 2-3 worst teams in the league, along with us and the Panthers. So for Cincinnati to be 0-2, that's pretty shocking.
By the way,
yeah, look,
I gotta pause the question segment. We need to give our predictions for the Giants, Browns, and Jets, Pats. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, let's move on that. All right, Novak.
Oh, I'm up first. Do I go Jets first or Giants first? What am I doing here?
Good. Do the Giants first. Actually, let's do them both. So when it's your turn, pick both games.
I'm picking both. Okay.
Yeah. The stats are Novak has not lost yet, 4-0. The rest of us are 3-1.
All right, so I can afford to lose one. So because
you got one in the bag.
Look, I've been around you guys for a while now, and I feel like the Giants are like that team that, you're like Kramer when he rented the car and that tank was on empty and they kept going and they kept going. The Giants are like that team where you're just about to run out of gas and you fill up for like a dollar's worth and then you go again. I think the Giants are gonna, in Cardone's favorite term, rise up. I like the Giants this weekend. I'm gonna take the Giants 17-13 against the Browns.
Wow.
I know, a little shocking there, but like I said, I can afford to lose one. And then the Jet game, as I said earlier, this game terrifies me. It really does. And I obviously don't pick the Jets a lot, but I think the Jets are just the more talented team. I think this is a very, very, very close game. I think the Jets barely win this game 21-20 on a late touchdown.
Wow.
21.
You'll be sweating
20.
that one out then.
I have a feeling, and I'll be up in Boone, so I'll be sweating that out watching up there. Because
Right
App plays tomorrow night.
Yes, they do. I'll be watching that. I'll be flipping back and forth, actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cardone.
I will start with the Giant game, and I think I'm going to stay true to my prediction of not picking this team to win until they actually do. I may switch that up, but Cleveland's defense, I think is going to give us a problem for sure. And I hate Deshaun Watson so much that the idea of him running around, I don't see us, if we couldn't knock Jaden Daniels, around as much, I don't know. I just had a bad feeling about Deshaun Watson running around, which is going to be just disgusting and gross. I got another low scoring affair here. I got Cleveland 20-10. I got them doubling us up. 2010 Cleveland. And then Novak, I'm going to give you a little bit, certainly more of a cushion with, as far as I'm predicting the Jets to win. I think they're just going to be jacked up for their home opener, prime time. I know your trepidation as the Jet fan that you are, obviously, and it's New England. Certainly know the history that New England and the nightmares with that franchise and playing against them. I totally get that. From my perspective, I like the Jets 27-14. I think they win a little bit more comfortably, and that could even be a late touchdown by New England, a little bit of garbage time there. I think the Jets win pretty, I'm going to say a little, pretty handily. I think just the home crowd, the home opener on a Thursday night, the place is going to be Met Death will be Met Life for a night.
For once in a while.
That'd be nice.
Scotty.
I got both of these games as 1-point games. So I have the Giants losing to Cleveland. I think that the defense is going to be a lot different than what we saw in Washington. I do think we're going to score some points, but it's not going to be enough. We're going to lose 21-20. Deshaun Watson is going to make a couple mistakes, but it won't be enough to overcome our mistakes. And then I have the Jets squeaking out one here. Of course, I just mentioned I picked New England to cover the 7-point spread. So I see the Jets winning 17-16. So I do not see this being a high scoring game, but I see the Jets winning.
All right. So I'll go New York and Cleveland, Giants in Cleveland. This one, yeah, I agree with what Scott just said about the Cleveland defense. And this is a whole other level of defense. And I don't know. Cardone said he might waver. I will not waver. I'm not picking the Giants until they win a game. There is no way that I pick the Giants until they win a game. So I have Cleveland beating us 24-16, and that 16 is a missed extra point because we can't overcome having a shitty kicker, which we will surely have no matter who we sign. So we're at the missed extra point, 24-16. For the Jets, I agree with what everyone said here. I think the defense rises up. I think the home opener, I think the place is going to be fired up. I think the Jets win pretty easy. I'm going to say 23-6.
Mike, real quick question.
Mm-hmm.
If the Giants are defeated going into the Germany game against Carolina, you're picking the Panthers?
I will pick all
right. I'm going to hold you to
Giants, that. If the Giants are winless,
hey,
I will pick the Panthers.
Okay.
I may be right there with you, Giant Mike. I don't know. It's gonna be so hard to pick the Giants in any of these weeks.
I am picking the Giants against the Panthers if they play in fucking Carolina
you
or
cannot
wherever.
pick the Panthers in anything.
No, I know. God help us. That's still 2 months away or whatever. Who knows what kind of shape I'll be in.
So we do still have 3 questions from Peacock. So we are saving the best for last. And the first one, I hesitate about asking, but we're only listened to by a handful of people, so I will say this. Who has the shortest pulse? Is it the Giants locker room, or I should say, who has the strongest pulse? Is it the Giants locker room or Dwayne Haskins?
Oh, jeez.
God.
So I will say this. At 0-2, I still think the Giants locker room has a pulse. Now, you get to 0-4, 0-5, then that locker room does not have a pulse, and there's probably infighting and a lot of other stuff that happens. But as of now, that locker room still has a pulse better than a guy who was hit by a truck on the interstate of Pennsylvania or Ohio or wherever he was.
11.5%, Scott. That's what we're looking at as far as 0-2 teams that make the playoffs from 1990. And that's a good 0-2 team, like the ones we pointed out, like a Ravens. We're not the Ravens or the Bengals. I mean, we're the Giants. So that may say 11%. Really, it's fucking take away one of those ones, and it's probably like 1.5%, if that.
The Giants, however, were one of those teams that have won a Super Bowl from 0-2.
That's true. There's been 3 of them actually. Yeah,
of course.
It says here,
we had Washington come in for Week 3 to save the sinking ship. This time, the Washington game's already passed. There's no saving this ship. If we can't beat Washington, man, we can't get it done. No,
AWS might have had us at like a 99% chance of missing the playoffs that year too.
Analytics.
Peacock also asks, and this is for the Jets, is it time for the Jets to drop their pants and pay Reddick?
Yes. I mean, that's a very simple answer. We lost our best pass rusher in Jermaine Johnson. Get over it. Get this guy in. Get him in here. Pay him. Like, what team has that luxury right now of losing one of their best defensive ends and has someone under their contract? I mean, get him in here. Yes, and I think they will. It won't be this week, and I don't think it'll be the week after. I think it'll be the following week, and I think he'll be in.
I think it's going to take that long.
I do. I think they'll probably. I mean, if they win this week, they're not going to feel the urgency to do it. This is a game of chicken at this point. And I think Reddick thinks he has all the leverage because they lost Jermaine Johnson. But I think the Jets are going to be like, listen, if we beat New England, then we've got some leverage back. We're 2-1. We don't need you as much. It's a game of chicken, and I think it'll get resolved within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Do you think, Novak, it's already been talked about? Like, do you think the Jets have said, hey, that last offer you made, we'll take it? And Reddick has said, that offer's off the table now.
I think, yes, I think things like that are happening absolutely 100% right now. Yep. No doubt. He has all the leverage right now, but a couple
Yep.
more wins and he doesn't have it as much anymore.
Yeah,
So
every week in the
now if they lose this week and they get they don't get any pressure on Jacoby Brissett, then I think he has more leverage and I think they get it done.
So Cardone, you'll like this last question.
All right.
Peacock's asking, when is Brian Burns going to arrive in New York?
Oh,
He hasn't heard his name called yet.
no. Shit, it better be this week. I mean, our big, that's the other thing too, right? Going back to Mike's point where like, it's just, everything has to be perfect for this team, right? I mean, we don't overcome anything. So, we were all fooled that we were getting this, talented player, in free agency or, whatever, and guys coming in and the guy's been invisible through 2 games. He better freaking show up this week. Otherwise, at what point is he just a bust? And I'm trying to, and I don't watch the Panthers. I don't remember, what this guy was doing last year, to be honest. I really don't know. I was kind of going by what I heard in terms of, wow, that's a good, talented player there. And that's a great addition to this defense. He's going to shore up the edge, this and that. I haven't heard the guy's name. How many tackles does he have so far officially? What's he done in 2 games?
I actually think he had a few during this game, although we didn't hear much about it. I think he's got 4 on the season. I thought the same thing because you mentioned it at the bar, saying, where the hell's Burns? And then I went back and saw a couple of plays that he actually did okay on, but they weren't highlight plays at all.
No.
I think as a group, we need to ask Peacock, what the hell's going on with the Cowboys? He just got blown out at home against the Saints. But, he's the one that asks the questions. We don't.
we just have to answer.
I'm going
to have to get a count going and start asking some questions.
You guys got anything else tonight? I know we ran a little bit late, but we got a lot to cover tonight.
I do have one
quick
comment.
one.
You got one, Scott?
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Cardone.
It's official. Want to make any chance I can get to bring up my boy Eli Manning. He was officially made officially a nominee for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Not exactly a surprise there, but it's just great to see his name pretty much headlined. As the it seems like he's like, and we said this right in terms of who else is on the ballot. He's like the number 1 guy. I'd be shocked and devastated if he doesn't get in this year.
How sad would it be if Eli doesn't make it, but Adam Vinatieri does?
I mean, come on. Eli's getting in. He's the headliner. Come on.
He's the headliner. Yeah.
Terrell Suggs is in that class too, which is
he's a good player. Yeah, he needs to be in.
Yeah. The interesting one there, Luke Kuechly. If Luke Kuechly makes the Hall of Fame, Tiki Barber should be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. I think Tiki should be in regardless, personally.
Yeah.
My quick one is I'm wearing number 80, right?
Wayne Corbett.
Yep. For a listener, a quick shout out. My father-in-law, Gary, turning 80. So I just want to wish him a happy birthday.
Right on.
He should be in the Hall of Fame of father-in-laws. That freaking guy is hard to live up to. I got to be honest with you. So love you, but Eagle fan, but hard to live up to. So happy birthday.
Well, you lost me at Eagle fan.
Yeah, sorry. Well.
I did have one more quick one because we really touched on these 2 things, but we didn't really kind of put a bow on the whole package. One of the things we talk about a lot on this podcast are like the false narratives in the NFL and the myths, the NFL myths. And, what was Nick Sirianni doing at the end of the game, right? He was playing to win the game, right? Is that what they say? If they had run the ball up the middle, if they had run the ball up the middle and got stuffed, every Eagle fan in America would be pissed that they played too conservative there, right?
But they would have won the game.
But they would have won the game. Yeah, they probably would have won the game. And then, of course, the other one I mentioned right off the bat was a field goals don't win games narrative, which we again saw busted this week. Field goals can completely win games. But then I also wanted to mention it kind of and I don't know if Scott, if you were going to do this, I apologize, but sort of an apology to our listeners for last week. We had a huge miss in not bringing up the anniversary of 9/11 until Novak did right at the end. That won't happen again, guys. I promise that.
Although we're bringing it up at the very end now, too.
Yeah. This is sort of, well, we will always bring it up at the end of a podcast. No, I just wanted to get it out there. I felt really bad about that last week after Novak brought it up. I kind of felt like a heel, we all being from the sort of New York area up there. So, it was a big miss to be recording on the actual date of 9/11 and not really, we just kind of slipped it in as a side note at the end. So we won't miss that again.
Yeah. Agreed. Good points.
Yeah.
So we are the 3 Angry Giant fans and a Jet fan. Hit us up at angry_3 on Twitter. Check out our website, angryfootballfans.com. And guys, next week we'll be back talking about the Jets Browns recap, as well as the Giants Browns recap and the Jets Patriots recap. And I have not had that much to drink tonight. It's not like I'm seeing Salah on the screen every fucking second. Having Salah still bugs my ass because just I left Mulligan's angry, drunk, and just I don't even know what to say.
Yeah,
Salty.
seriously.
Salty's a
If
good
we
one.
market that game somehow, we have to put disclaimers all over that game.
Oh yeah.
We got to get that trademarked.
We recommend you only play it for one half. Don't do it.
So we'll see you next week, guys. Have a good week.
All right, guys.
See you.